I read a book toward the end of November that I really loved. It's called The Shame by Makenna Goodman, and I have it back here. This was published by Milkweed Editions in 2020. And there's a scene toward the end of the book where the narrator, Alma, makes a blueberry buckle for her town. And so I thought I would try my hand at making a buckle. And because it's fall/winter, I am going to use apples instead of blueberries. And I think I'm going to add raspberries to it as well to give it that yummy berry flavor. But this book I really, really loved. It won me over. It's beautifully written. For such a short book, it packs quite a punch. There's a lot of really deep things to think about throughout the novel, and it's one of those perfectly slim novels that's filled with just this tension that you can feel in your whole body as you're reading through it. There's a few scenes in particular where I was just like on the edge of my seat, and I love that in a really short novel, when they're just like really tense and like it's like a really tightly wound spring, and you just know that something's gonna burst at the end. This is the story of Alma, and it's narrated by Alma. She's a woman, probably, I would say maybe in her 30s. She has 2 young children, and her husband has a faculty job at a potentially Ivy League. I think they make reference, they don't name the university, but they reference it as Ivy League or close to Ivy League status, and they live in this very remote town in rural Vermont, and they have moved into this house that is a very, very, very old house, and they have this kind of like farmstead life where Alma is not only taking care of her kids while her husband works, but they have like sheep and like a kind of an orchard or a farm, and she takes care of all of these things. And you find out she's an aspiring writer as well, and she's kind of put her own career on hold while her husband follows his career passions, and so she can raise their kids and spend time with them and kind of live the sustainable rural life that they both her husband and Alma kind of want, this not quite off the grid, but very sustainable lifestyle. And so she can't really have a career, or so she thinks, while she's pursuing this caretaking and, this life of living off the land. So Alma she doesn't really know, you can get the sense, she doesn't really know what she really wants. She's feeling suffocated. She loves her children and loves spending time with them and can't imagine not dedicating all of her days to them, but at the same time she's kind of longing for something more, and a few opportunities come her way, sort of, but she finds ways to kind of sabotage them. So she kind of descends into this obsession. She starts writing fiction on her, in her free time. She starts this novel or a story, and she's trying to invent a female main character who is kind of like herself, but also very much not like herself, maybe who has achieved things that she hasn't been able to achieve. And sorry, my neighbors are so loud upstairs. And in her research, she discovers this woman online through social media named Celeste, or who she names Celeste, and Alma becomes absolutely obsessed with Celeste, and things kind of go downhill from there as Alma descends into this obsession over Celeste and Celeste's life. I could see a lot of myself in Alma, but at the same time was very, very frustrated with her. There were just a few points where it just annoyed me, her perspective that she couldn't be close to her children while having a job. Her mom had these aspirations to also, I think, be a painter. Was it a painter or a writer? I forget what her mother's job was. But anyway, so Alma grew up with a nanny, and therefore kind of associates her mother having career aspirations, sort of, and the fact that Alma grew up with a nanny, with the fact that she's not close with her mother. That really rubbed me the wrong way as a mother who works and who considers herself to be very, very close to her child. So, and has plenty of of bonding time. Other than that, this was really like gripping and, like I said, so tense at certain moments. There was this moment, a dinner party early in the novel where Alma is invited to, when her husband makes tenure, she's invited to a dinner party to celebrate the fact that he has tenure now. And so she's surrounded by like chairs of all the different departments and their spouses, and she really wants to impress them, and like she's just going on and on and on about how the party is going so well and how wonderful she's coming off to everybody and how she's performing so well at this dinner party. And you could just feel it, the tension building, and you know something is gonna go wrong. It was really fantastic and really well done. It takes place in Alma's brain, like you're with her thoughts the whole time, but it's also very much a novel based in very physical, real, concrete places and spaces, like her house and their land and this town in Vermont, and even her car. You get scenes in her car. At one point in the book, she's in New York, and it's just this very palpable feeling of the difference between the city and the country where she lives and where she kind of aspires or thinks she aspires to be. And it's a lot about her figuring out where physically where she wants to be as well. So there's a lot of really rich detail in terms of space and place and the people that fill those spaces and places. And in particular, the scene with the blueberry buckle, I really loved. So the blueberry buckle, Alma is asked by the one of the town clerks to make a pie to sell in at a town fair, and she gets all pissed off at first because she's like, well, why didn't you ask my husband? Or she didn't say this, but she was like, they could have asked her husband to make a pie, which in my house they probably would have asked my husband to make a pie because he's much better at that kind of thing than I am, even though I love it too. But the more she thinks about it, the more she kind of wants to do it and impress. And I've been in those situations before where feel like I've been asked to do something either because like I'm a woman or like because of my, particular role at work or, whatever reason you're like asked to do something that feels like, they could have asked somebody else to do this. Why do they always come to me and ask? But then you are like, but I really do like doing that thing. So you're really torn inside about like, well, do I make a stand and say like, you should ask somebody else sometimes to do this thing? Or should I just do it because I know that I actually really like doing it and I like the praise that comes along with, baking the cookies or the pie or whatever it is. And so Alma is like kind of struggling with that same feeling. So she ends up making this blueberry buckle instead of a pie. It seems like she kind of makes a stand, like she's not gonna make a pie, but she will make a buckle. And so, but then she had this really beautiful line where she looks back at the message from the clerk, and this time her demands were a comfort to me. There was safety in this simple fact. We lived here. Someone was expecting us to be somewhere, to do something. Even if these expectations were sometimes stifling, they also meant I wasn't completely alone. And I thought that was really beautiful. So I'm gonna make a buckle. So a buckle is kind of like a coffee cake almost with fruit in it. It's named because of, you have the batter and then you lay the fruit on top of it, and then you put a streusel topping, and the batter kind of buckles as it bakes, as it kind of falls into the fruit. At least that's my understanding. So it feels kind of coffee cake-ish with fruit. I've heard, most commonly referenced, the blueberry buckle, but I was looking for recipes and found a couple other buckle recipes for like all sorts of berries and apples and nectarines and stuff like that. So I thought, since we have apples, I thought I would try an apple version. I have a little bit of an obsession with ebook versions of cookbooks. A while ago, I was getting really annoyed because I couldn't remember which books had which recipes, or if I had an ingredient, I wanted to be able to search through all my cookbooks to be able to find all the recipes that contain that ingredient. So I was gonna like try and index all the recipes in all my books. And then I did some searching online and I realized that somebody has already done this. And there's a website called Eat Your Books. This is not sponsored so at all, but I am obsessed with this website. You sign up for a membership, you pay it's like $36 a year, I think, for a membership. And they've indexed hundreds, if not thousands, of cookbooks by ingredient. So you can search for an ingredient and you can make yourself a bookshelf of all the cookbooks that you own, and you can search then by ingredient and it will pull up all of the recipes from cookbooks you own that contain that particular ingredient. So, or you can search by recipe title. So I just went in to Eat Your Books and I searched for buckle and several came up. You can also put different blogs and stuff in on your bookshelf. It will pull up recipes from those blogs too. So I searched for buckle and a bunch of different things came up. Blue nectarine buckles, blueberry buckles, strawberry buckles. There was a recipe for a fresh blueberry buckle in the Essential New York Times Cookbook, which is a compilation of recipes from the New York Times. Amanda Hesser did all this research to put together, I think it's over 1,000 recipes from the whole history of the New York Times recipe collection. And there was a recipe from 1967 for a fresh blueberry buckle. So I'm gonna use that as my base, and then I'm gonna add in apples and raspberries and some lemon zest instead of the blueberries and cardamom and nutmeg. So we'll see how that goes.